From its origin to its impacts on our lives, here are 10 insane mysteries about our incredible celestial neighbor. Number 10. Origin. It's been over 50 years since mankind first landed on the surface of the moon, and we still can't get enough information about it. There are 5 main theories regarding the origin of our satellite. The fission theory suggests that the moon used to be part of our planet that somehow drifted away. The capture theory propounds that the moon was just casually wandering about our busy and bizarre solar system until it eventually got caught by our planet's gravitational pull. But the most notable theory, also known as the giant impact theory, puts forward the idea that a planetoid the size of Mars, known as Theia, smashed into a young molten Earth billions of years ago, forming the moon just 14,000 miles away. Any closer, the gravity would have pulled the debris crashing back to the early Earth, and there'd have been no moon. Obviously, these are not the things that we can see to believe, so for the time being, the formation of our grayish-white neighbor remains a mystery to our scientific communities. Number 9. It is moving away. As kids, we learned that the moon stably orbits the Earth at an average distance of about 250,000 miles. That, however, is not entirely true. Every year, the moon's orbit gets a tiny bit bigger, meaning our friendly satellite moves farther away from us at an average rate of 3.8 centimeters or 1.5 inches every year. Here, you might be thinking that if the moon keeps slipping away from our welcoming orbit, would it eventually drift beyond the influence of our planet, leaving us all alone? No, the truth is, it's moving away because of a conserved quantity known as angular momentum. As the total angular momentum of a closed system always stays the same, thanks Isaac Newton, it's pretty unlikely that our beloved neighbor will ever leave us alone. Number 8. The dark side of the moon. As you might know, the Earth and the moon are tidally locked, which means when we look at the moon, we only ever see one side of it. The other, which could more accurately be called the far side, is still a mystery. To this day, even after launching over 8,000 objects into space, we know surprisingly little about the so-called dark side of the moon. It was first observed in 1959 by the Soviet Union's Lunar 3 space probe, which photographed it, and since then it has sparked many questions that have been left unanswered. One of the main things we do know, however, is that the two sides are remarkably different. The permanently turned near side is relatively low and flat. In contrast, the topography of the far side is high and mountainous, with a much thicker crust, and again, no one knows why. To this date, no human has ever set foot there, but surely with our increasing interest to research the so-called dark side of the moon, many more exciting mysteries will be brought forward in the years to come. Number 7. The key to life on Earth. We talked about where the moon may have come from, but what if there was no moon at all? Are the moon and the tidal force it exerts really that important for life on Earth? Well, according to physics professor Neil Comins, there's only one way to find out. He states if we were to find evidence that life has ever existed on another planet without a moon, it would suggest that moons like ours are not an essential ingredient for life. Such a discovery is unlikely, but not impossible. But who knows what lies in the massive universe? It is just too vast for us ever to find out. Could there really be any life beyond our planet? What are your thoughts? Number 6. Moonquakes. Despite basically being a dead hunk of rock, with very little geological activity, the moon is prone to shaking fits. And unlike the earthquakes caused by our planet's tectonic plates rubbing up against one another, moonquakes are much harder to explain. Some of the tremors are reasonably easy to detect. These are the vibrations the moon gets from meteorite impacts and the sudden changes in surface temperature, both of which tend to be minor, barely enough to shatter a window, but time and again, the moon experiences quakes that we just can't explain. These are a lot more powerful and localized and have been registered up to 5.5 on the Richter scale. According to NASA, these quakes also have the effect of making the moon ring like a bell. Though some believe that the quakes are from the tidal effects that the Earth exerts on the moon, there is no hard proof of this belief. Scientists are unable to identify just what generates these massive shakes within the moon's surface. Being able to understand the cause of these massive quakes could unlock incredible secrets and knowledge about our moon, but without methods of detection, we are left completely in the dark. Number 5. The moon's magnetic field. Magnetic fields come from the rising, cooling, and sinking of molten metals in the core of a planet or other celestial body. Earth's magnetic field protects us from dangerous solar wind and cosmic radiation. Without it, life as we know it would look a lot different, or might not exist at all. Now let's move on from the Earth's magnetic field to the moon's. During the prime period of man's missions to the moon, astronauts brought home some puzzling items: lunar rock samples, which were observed to be quite similar to the magnetic rocks here on Earth. Now, magnetic particles are nothing special. They are found all over our planet, but what really surprised the scientists was their presence on the surface of the moon. After all, they had concluded that the moon doesn't have a magnetic field. So how could they detect magnetic rocks on it? The most believed explanation is that the moon did, in fact, have its own magnetic field until about 3.5 billion years ago, when its core cooled and slowed down. In more recent times, after heating the same rock samples, scientists have even concluded that the magnetic field might have survived far past that point. But this explanation still raises the question why the magnetic field disappeared in the first place. Number 4. Water on the moon. Forget Mars, there is water on the moon. In 1996, NASA's Clementine spacecraft speculated that there could be frozen water located in permanently shadowed craters of the moon, an astounding claim that was later validated by the Lunar Prospector spacecraft a couple of years later. Scientists have estimated that the moon might be holding up to about 1.6 billion tons of water ice at its poles. But how did all that water ice get there? Nobody really knows yet. Scientists at NASA theorize that the water may have blown in on solar winds or was deposited by comets. But given that the moon has virtually no atmosphere and scorching hot temperatures of up to 260 degrees Fahrenheit, you'd think any water on its surface would quickly evaporate away. Now, in the future, this water could likely be harvested to help generate a new form of spacecraft fuel or to sustain a future lunar colony. On a side note, a California-based company called Moon Express is even making plans to mine the moon and bring some of its elements back to Earth. Let's see how this will pan out. Number 3. Time taken by the moon orbiting Earth. Another mystery in the facts that, in reality, we know very little about is the time taken by the moon to revolve around our planet. So how long does the moon really take? Well, depending upon whether you use the sun or stars as your reference point, the lunar orbit takes either 27.3 days, a sidereal month, or 29.5 days, called a synodic month. So even though we see the moon every night, you wouldn't get full credit for saying 24 hours. You'd be wrong, and not by a tiny margin. Another interesting part about the moon is it takes roughly 27 days to rotate on its axis, appearing to us to be almost perfectly still rather than spinning. But just imagine how amazing would our moon look if it revolved around us every night. Now that would be a visual experience you wouldn't want to miss. But I would rather be on the safe side, personally. Number 2. Link between the full moon and strange behavior. The moon's effects on the Earth and vice versa cannot be denied. However, its effects on humans remain a source of constant debate. So what do the researchers have to say about it? Well, surprisingly, not much. They suggest that there is not, and never has been, any link between a full moon and insanity. And in a 1985 study that evaluated the research of 37 other previous studies, researchers failed to find any real correlation between moon cycles and erratic behavior or accidents. Oh, and of course, for the supernatural enthusiasts among us, no, the moon does not turn any humans into werewolves either. In more recent times, there have been a few studies that suggest there is a link between the moon and our sleep. The results, however, are confusing. But if all of them are true, it could very well be proof that our friendly satellite really is stranger than science fiction. This last fact had me up half the night with my mind racing. It's actually crazy. But first, click subscribe if you like this video, and be sure to give it a thumbs up. Here's number 1. Number 1. Music on the moon. Though many of you may not know about this, there was one manned moon mission, the Apollo 10 mission, prior to the first public moon landing. It was launched on May 8th, 1969, to test all of the physical components that had been put in place for the upcoming moon landing. Now, the Apollo 10 mission has gone somewhat unknown and unnoticed for decades. But there was one mysterious incident that took place during its operation. An incident that had been hidden from the public until 2008. Observing the clip, anybody can tell that it was not just mission control that the astronauts heard. They also heard enigmatic and unexplained music, which to this day has not been explained adequately. Take a listen to the actual audio in the link in the description below. There are many who want to believe that those mysterious waves were coming from extraterrestrial technology on our moon. What are your thoughts?